Hi class, it's Tuesday, May 26th. I just wanted to provide you some last minute garden updates so I can show you how the radishes and peapods are doing, as well as some other things we have planted in the garden. And I also wanted to show you the giant seeds on the rhubarb. So this weekend, yeah, I spent a ton of time in the garden. I cleaned a lot of cement and I got rid of a bunch of moss that was on it. I also made one of the garden beds that I promised for my mom for her birthday and Mother's Day, so I'll show you how that looks. And as you can hear, there are lots of birds outside. There is a wren that made a nest in my mom's birdhouse. There is a duck nest that I will show you, and all sorts of fun things that are happening outside. So I hope that you are making it outside during this beautiful weather. I wanted to update you on the garden beds that I'm making for my mom. So the one that we have all of our plants in is the original garden bed that was made 15 or so years ago. And this is the brand new garden bed that I've been working on building with my boyfriend, and my mom and dad have helped too. And you can see that it looks super awesome, not to toot my own horn, but it looks super awesome. But it wasn't without a lot of hard work, and still some hard work left to go because we didn't finish screwing in the top boards yet. We have to adjust the plastic on the inside and finish filling it with dirt, which you can see under that green tarp. We got to replace it. So pretty cool. Here you can see that I have the radishes growing, and you can see that good thing I planted a few extra seeds because the second row is looking great, but the very first row I only have 5 plants or so that made it, and this one looks like it even died. And the soil is cracked, so even though we've had tons of rain, it looks like they need some watering still. They're not quite ready for picking, but in a few more days, about a week, they will be ready. So it looks like I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, about 15 radishes ready to eat. Here you can see we have some herbs growing that my mom likes to use. We have some parsley right here, and it's kind of fluffy and soft. And we use parsley on chicken, we use parsley on salmon, we use parsley in different soups. Here we have fennel. You can see that the leaves are really skinny and kind of fluffy, kind of almost similar to a carrot, but not quite that thick. And we've never grown fennel before, but fennel has a very strong flavor, and my mom loves to use it in stew with Italian sausage and potatoes and carrots in the fall. And so hopefully it'll turn out. And let's look at the card here for a second here. So this is what fennel looks like. It kind of looks like an onion, and it is fragrant. It's used for dyes, and I think, yeah, it is a tuber vegetable that'll come out of the ground and dig it up like a carrot and potato. There, back there, you can see we have basil. We also like to use basil in spaghetti sauces, in lasagna, in different soups, and sometimes on chicken. I also wanted to share with you something that my mom had started to plant in here. She has always grown green beans, and so the green beans she planted about a week ago, and they have just started to pop up, and they are some of the most crazy things that pop up, I think, because they just look so cool, and to think that they still kind of have the seeds, and I just love watching them sprout up. So here, I'll share with you what they look like. So right over there, you can see that little tiny green plant, and I'll zoom in a little bit more. And there we have a green bean coming. We also have a green bean coming in right there. And unfortunately, this is as close as I can get with this camera. So there you have the part that was in the stem. And there we have another green bean plant coming. So as I look here in the garden, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bean plants, and all of these bean plants will grow tons of beans for us to eat. So in the garden, I also found something that my parents aren't super fond of. So I did pluck it out, even though it's a tree, but I wanted to share it with you anyway because I will throw it away because my parents don't like these in their garden / their yard. So the neighbor has a black walnut tree. That's not ours, but it drops all of these walnuts, which are, you know, like a nut or kind of like an acorn from an oak tree. And they create lots of baby seedling trees in our yard, which my parents don't want. And so that's why it's kind of a problem for us, is that we're not interested in these trees. So what's interesting though is I found a couple of them actually growing in the garden, and I dug them up. And at first I thought it was a raspberry plant, but it isn't. And when I looked further at it, it had this huge lump on it, and I wasn't sure what it was. So I did some digging. So here we have this baby tree, and I know it's sad that I just dug this beautiful little tree out that's making oxygen, but it is what it is. So someday I'll plant a different tree instead. So here you can see the little leaves that are growing and the stem, and then here you can see this big ball, and this is actually the walnut that turned into a seed. And here you have this big root that it started to create. So let's crack it open, and that way I can show you what it looks like on the inside of this walnut. So this is a black walnut. It is, you could eat the nuts if you really wanted to, but inside I cracked it open and you can see the actual seed starting to germinate. So this is the walnut, and the walnut turned into a seed that started to germinate this little baby tree. Pretty cool. Let's see if I can get in closer. Look how high those Peapods have gotten. They have grown about double their size in the last 4 days because of all of the rain, and they're almost as tall as the white fence. And hopefully the next time I make my video, we'll also be eating some Peapods. Here is that rhubarb, and you can see that it is huge, and I can even see right now a little bee buzzing around pollinating the flowers on the top. Now that is where the rhubarb seeds grow and will fall, and so my mom likes to cut those off so that way her rhubarb doesn't get too crazy, because you can see this rhubarb is pretty crazy and it takes up like the whole frame of my camera. So awesome. And I can continue to harvest it until July. A couple of more random things growing in my garden right now is we have all of these little things. They kind of look like that fennel I showed you, and this is growing kind of wildly in our garden. We don't have a spot for it, but this is dill. You use dill to pickle different things like cucumbers into pickles, or in maybe you make like pickled beets or something like that. I don't know if you put in beets, but my mom uses dill in her pickles. She also loves to put dill on her salmon, and so we also just grow it actually for caterpillars. We get a lot of caterpillars that like to eat the dill. So the dill is an herb, and yeah, it's just kind of growing all over in our garden right now. Lastly, my mom has bought in some tomato plants. We usually don't make tomatoes or grow tomatoes from seeds. My mom usually just buys them, and so they're looking okay. This one, not so much. So we definitely won't be getting tomatoes from that plant because it's probably not going to make it. But there you have it. There's some updates on my garden, and I'll keep you posted.